Hello guys, welcome back to another video on my channel. So in the last video we talked about the annihilators of linear subspaces as themselves being subspaces of the dual vector space. And then we proved some results about the image and kernel of dual linear maps. Before we begin this video, which will end the chapter, some etymology for everyone. So the word annihilation in English traces back to Middle English annihilation, means an act of making something void or reduced to nothing, tracing back to annihilatio in Latin, which is the noun for reducing something to nothing, tracing back to the verb annihilare, which means to reduce to nothing. So as I said, we introduced the annihilator as a subspace of the dual vector space and used that to prove results on the image and kernels of dual linear maps. Now we will talk about the matrix representation of a dual linear map. This video will relatively be a short one for that reason because we don't have much to talk about. Before we begin, just a note, for the next result we will assume that we have a basis v1 through vn of capital V along with its dual basis phi1 through phi n of v star. We also have a basis w1 through wm of capital W along with its dual basis psi1 through psi m of W star. Therefore, M of t, the matrix of t, is defined or computed with respect to the bases of V and W. And the matrix of t star, the dual linear map, is computed with respect to the dual bases of W star and V star respectively. So the ordering is important. So T is a map from V to W. So we've written that in this order, and then T star is a map from W star to V star. The first proposition is, suppose V and W are finite dimensional vector spaces and T is a linear map from V to W. Then the matrix of T star equals the matrix of T transpose. We've defined what transposes are in the section on matrices. Namely, it's an operation that sets the rows of a matrix to its columns and columns to rows. You interchange the rows and columns basically. And of course, we are operating under the assumption that we had on top that V and W star and V star all have their bases. So let A be the matrix of T under the bases we have and C be the matrix of T star. Then suppose J is an index going from 1 to M and K is an index going from 1 to N. From the definition of matrix of a linear map, in this case we're taking the matrix of T star, we have that the action of T star on a dual basis vector, so T star acting on psi j, is by definition equal to sum from r equals 1 to n of CRJ phi r. So CRJ are the components or the entries of the matrix of T star, which in this case we call that C. So we have CRJ denoting the rjth entry of the matrix C. And T star is a linear map from W star to V star. So it will act on any basis vector of W star, and the output will be a linear combination of the basis vectors of V star. Now the left hand side of the equation is, by definition of dual linear maps, equals the composition of psi j with T. Okay, and then if you apply both sides of the equation, this equation, to Vk, a basis vector of capital V, that gives you psi j compose T acting on Vk, the sum from r equals 1 to n, CRJ as usual, phi r of Vk. Now phi and V are dual with respect to each other, and by the definition of dual bases, the only index that will survive this is the one where r equals k. Every other index will go to 0 because phi r vk will be 0 if r and k are different. So we end up with the only surviving term, which is ckj. Fair enough. Now, we also have that in this evaluation, so psi j compose t acting on vk by associativity is equal to psi j acting on tvk. Now you can expand tvk based on the matrix, what its matrix is. So we have psi j acting on sum from r equals 1 to m, ark, wr. So ark now is the rkth entry of the matrix of t in with respect to the bases we have. And we know matrix of t is A. So ark is the rkth entry. Psi j is a linear map, so you can just you can pull the sum and the ark, which are constants outside. So sum from r equals 1 to m, ark, psi j wr, and similar to before from the definition of the dual basis with respect to w, only surviving index is the one for which j equals r. So the only surviving term will be a jk. And since both these expansions are equal, ajk must be equal to ckj. Or in other words, ckj equals ajk. That means that C is just A transpose, because when you transpose, the rows become columns and vice versa. So in C, when you transpose A, the k index for the column becomes the k index of the row, and then y similarly for the j, and we end up with ckj. So indeed we have C is equal to A transpose. But what is C? C is the matrix of T star, and A is a matrix of T. So we have matrix T star equals matrix T transpose. All right. And finally, the last result in this short video is a bonus where we will use duality, this notion of duality that we have, to give a proof that the column rank of a matrix equals the row rank of that matrix. So suppose A is an m by n matrix, then the column rank of A equals the row rank of A. First of all, define T, which is a linear map from fn1 to fm1. So from the space of column vectors with n entries to the space of column vectors of m entries, which is given by Tx equals Ax, where Ax is, well, just some matrix. And of course, that means that the matrix of T is A, where matrix T, this M map, is computed with respect to the standard bases of Fn1 and Fm1. This is a fairly reasonable assumption. So then what that means is T is just represented by this matrix, which is called A, in the standard basis. And it's just this simple action that T acting on X, any element of Fn1, is just equal to the multiplication, the matrix multiplication of A on the column vector that is X. Then what we have is the column rank of A, but A is the matrix of T, equals the column rank of matrix T, simply because A equals matrix T. Now the column rank of a matrix T, we know from before, is just the rank of that linear map. So that means rank is just the dimension of the image of T. From our last video, we know dimension image T equals dimension of image of T star. And then dimension of image of a linear map is just the column rank of the matrix of that map. So column rank of the matrix of T star, which equals, because matrix T star is matrix T transpose, matrix T is A, so this equals the column rank of A transpose. But when you transpose a matrix, the columns become rows. So the column rank of A transpose is just the row rank of the regular matrix A. So there you go. This is how you prove the column rank equals the row rank as a bonus result. I think that's it for this video. I don't have anything else. So basically, the whole idea about representing dual vectors and dual linear maps is that, well, dual vectors are linear maps from a vector space to the field of the vector space. So they're going to be, you can see that very easily, row matrices. And dual linear maps are going to be transposes of their regular counterparts, as this result suggests, under a matrix representation. And then, of course, the action of a dual or linear functional on a vector is a simple application of a row matrix multiplied with a column matrix, giving you a single entry matrix, or a number rather, which is how linear functionals were defined, that they were elements that when acting on vectors would give you elements of the field, right? Because they're linear maps from V to F. So there you go. That ends our discussion. That ends this chapter. Next time when we resume, we will be exploring the more interesting things about linear algebra, like eigenspaces, eigenvectors, and things like that. So please like and subscribe to my channel, and peace out.